Morning. So the topic today I just want to talk about is something that probably nearly all autistics are going to relate to, which is environment. It's not understood still out there the difference the right environment can make. I do know that for some we can overcome things within our environments if they're a bit more challenging. But at first, when an autistic hasn't been in any correct environment, there will be a lot of problems to sort out first. And that isn't about sorting the autistic out, it's about sorting out the environment. The environment needs to be correct for that individual. A lot of professionals make the mistake of saying, oh, this person here, they can do it, why can't you? You're invalidating that person's the autistic's experience. If you want to build trust, which is really paramount, you've invalidated and lost their trust. Each autistic with their own requirements needs to be listened to, as we know. An environment can mean the difference between flourishing or decline. If you have a flower that needs, say, part shade, part sun, you wouldn't stick it in a fully bright sunny spot. You'll know what will happen. That flower will decline and it just won't be there anymore. So we need, if an autistic needs part sun, part shade, that's the only way they're going to flourish. You can't force an autistic to be in an environment they can't deal with. And it's the wrong words, they can't deal with. They can't, grow in or be comfortable in. And that is the way an autistic person is. Environment can make a big difference. When you have certain abilities and skills, you don't get every single set of everything that can do certain things. Particularly, I think sometimes autistics, if we've got a certain set of skills, those set of skills need to be looked after, and for it to be at its ultimate. And you can't have everything. So say the ability of sensing and feeling our environment, and caring about other people and being morally correct. You can't expect them then to go into an environment where an office situation or somewhere else where people are playing mind games, where people are trying one-upmanship, where people don't do what they say they're going to do. You can't expect somebody like that to go into those environments, into a dog-eat-dog sort of setting, because that vulnerability and that sensitivity that an autistic has is the advantage, but it needs to be in the right settings. You also can't pretend that the environment that an autistic in is okay when it isn't. And even though within society it's accepted that this is the environment, it doesn't mean it's the correct one for an autistic. There are obviously strategies, but it does depend on how much of a trigger certain things are for an autistic. So I'm in environments where things aren't as honest and open as I'd like them to be, and it does take a bit out of me each time I'm in that environment, I have to say, and affects my personality. That is why we're sensitive to our environment. But this is what the world kind of needs anyway, is people who are sensitive to environment, not people who can shut everything off. And well, this is what I think anyway. Everybody, people can shut things off and think about number one. This is where the world's gone wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Autistics have this ability to um, feel and know what's right. This is what the world, it's got to be what the world needs. So environment for an autistic is really high up there. And I know a lot of people who are in the working world who try and to support autistics aren't quite getting that right. There are a few organisations I've heard that have been really great, and they do appreciate those things, and they're very nurturing, and it's really nice to hear that. And you're like, yay, because those autistics will not be the same people by the end of a year if they're in the right environment. And the great thing about a lot of us is we have high potential for creativity. No, and I don't mean arty, because people always assume it's arty, but creativity as in thinking, solving problems. And I think that if more businesses allow for room for bending, it makes the environment that anybody is working in a better one, because it makes that environment more accepting and more welcoming and unprejudiced. And we meet still with prejudice. So, I think all of these kind of qualities not only it will benefit wherever an autistic goes to work. It will change the landscape, and landscape I think needs to change for each individual, because surely the aim is to have most people in work. I'm not sure about what the ethics of that is, unfortunately, but I do know on the surface it is better for an autistic to be employed because of mental health, because of learning coping strategies in the way that where you have one job and then you learn to have two jobs and you learn to multitask a bit more. You mean you don't have to, none of this is a pressure, because you might not. You mean your hyper focus might mean you just stay on one thing, and that's really not just, but you stay on one thing but see it through very, very well. So, it's none of it is a judgment or criticism or anything. I'm just saying that's like for me, because I've managed to hold down working, then my brain and my ability and time thing has become a routine. And then after routine becomes growth. So, but not for everybody, obviously, because that is something that's so important. We are not all the same. So, and everything that somebody does is an advantage or in a working environment, and a good thing, just because somebody can do those many things, doesn't mean that the one thing somebody does isn't valuable. It's all valuable. This is what the work environment, I think. So the right environment for us, and living environment, not just working, living environment. If you're coming up against things that your autism can cope with, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, we can learn to adapt. Some things we can learn to adapt to, but if our feelings are met with aggression or dismissal, that will not make anything work. Even if you kind of, things need to be validated and spoken about, and if it's possible, things need to change. If it's not possible, then sometimes it's good for us to try and adapt. But if it's a thing that is a huge trigger for you, and it's like, say, sound, if sound is something that affects you, you can't adapt to that, can you really? I mean, that's impossible. So I'm talking about things that are impossible. So nobody should be made to feel if they can't handle something that they have to adapt to it, because that is just wrong. Wrong environment for them then. So I just want to talk about the importance of the correct environment and the massive difference that can make. And it needs to be a way forward for anybody working with autistics and for autistics. Our environment is paramount. Right. Take care. Well, I went all serious then, didn't I? Bye.